the fallen future. In the furthest reaches of space comes a hero to save the universe. In one tight little sexy package, it's Carter. She's a galaxy girl. Catch Carter. Give her comic a whirl. Catch Carter. She's on Indiegogo. It's Carter. Who the hell is Han Solo? The comic book superstar Lopresti. Go get Carter today.
Critical blast logistics, getting it done, getting it there. Critical blast logistics, getting it done, getting it there.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure, follows a retired soldier turned reporter who is given a coveted interview with a death row inmate. What he learns thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to use his military training to survive being hunted for possessing the information that could topple the city's most powerful ruling class. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denali's.com.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
I was sitting all alone in my library chair when I found a book and it gave me a scare. The pages I kept turning, it quite took me in. What was it? Oh, where do I begin? We read the monsters. I read the monsters next door. The monsters. It had short stories galore. The monsters. It's full of horror and gore. The monsters. I read the monsters next door.
Oh, 25 seconds to curtain, folks.
It's a Critical Blast podcast with special guest Aaron Lopresti.
Thank you, studio audience. All for Aaron, I know that. Nothing for me, I don't deserve it. Aaron's the one putting in the work. Aaron, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, RJ. I appreciate you having me on. And let me make a public apology right now that I flaked out yesterday, and you have my sincerest apologies for that mistake. And hopefully, we can make up for it tonight.
It's quite all right. I get it. Your friend's got something going on. You don't look at the calendar. You go to your friend. So when I have friends, I'll know what that's like. But I'm kidding. No, I'm not.
It's having friends. It just clutters up your schedule, right? So
I know. Wow. So when I look at the designs for Kit Carter, your current project, I'm thrown back to some of the old copies that I actually own of like Amazing Fantasy Worlds and or Amazing Stories and stuff like that. Those old pulps with the really sexy covers and the tight spacesuits. I'm like, that's not what we sent the boys up on in the Apollo in. They wore hefty bags that were like loose.
Well, I think there's a lot of sort of like-minded people about this stuff. I go back to sort of the EC comics, weird science fantasy, things like that, where they did a bunch of this, bubble helmeted space girls. In fact, we even saw some of it in the 80s. Dave Stevens did a story and a couple covers for what was it for Pacific Comics? The
Forbidden World.
It was it'll come to me in a second, but so it's one of those sci-fi tropes, like you said. It's been around since the pulps, and everybody seems to like it. And so I can't take a lot of credit for coming up with this new invention, but it's just kind of my take on this sort of a classic B movies, 50s or out of 30s pulp, 50s sci-fi kind of thing.
Well, it's a trope question, but I'm curious about when the idea for Kit Carter first came to you, because I know that I saw her in a sketchbook of yours several years ago. So the idea has been percolating a while.
Yeah, I think I was going through my stuff, and I think it dates back to 2012. And originally, it's one of the rare occasions where I've come up with a character without any sort of story behind it. Usually you come up with a character and there's a story and there's a backstory. And, I was looking simply for an image to put on a sketchbook cover. And so I was just kind of playing around with some concepts. And I had done a few pieces, I don't know, 3 pieces, I think, of a bubble helmet space girl, short blonde hair, that was never officially named anything. She was just, I did a painting for a portfolio that I was producing back in the 90s. I did another one that ended up being a print. And so the concept was already rolling around in my head, but it was concepts that I'd seen before other people do. It was just kind of my take on it. And so I came up with this thing. I thought, well, why don't I do like kind of a faux 1950s B movie, like serial poster or a B movie type poster. And so I did this drawing, and it was basically, I put down at the bottom, I did the lettering, and it said Kit Carter versus the Astro Zombies. And that was the first time I'd ever actually named her. And I was originally going to call her Kit Carson. And then I said, why does that name sound so familiar? And I then looked it up, and I went, okay, I can't use Kit Carson. But what if I just change Carson to Carter? And so I made this illustration that I was going to use as the cover for my sketchbook. It got so involved, I said, you know what? I'm going to make this into a print. And then I ended up using another image of her on the sketchbook cover. And so I did a series of, 2 or 3 prints, I think, using her. And one of them was Kit Carter versus the Molten Menace, right? And again, it was kind of a faux B movie type poster look to it. And people would see these at conventions, and they would say, well, what's this about? And I'm like, I don't know. Are we ever going to see is this a character? Are you going to do a series? Is this a book you're going to do? And I had never really thought of that, but everybody kept asking me, and this went on for years. And I finally decided a few years ago, I thought, maybe I should do something with this character. And started writing a script, and I could not get a handle on it, on what I really wanted to do with her. And then I thought, okay, wait a minute. This is kind of supposed to be like a B movies 50s thing, or maybe a EC comic from the 50s. I thought, what if I approached this as a weekly newspaper strip, right? And did it like a Sunday strip, that we see the color strips in the newspapers back in the day.
Right, right.
And so I started writing them, and what they turned out to be was like basically like you'd see in a newspaper strip, but there was kind of a gag at the end of the strip, but it was part of a larger continuity, right? So each one sort of was its own little thing, but it was part of a larger continuity. And I did a series of these, and I really kind of felt like I was getting a handle on the character. And these were available online and through my website. And it wasn't until I would work on them whenever I had a chance, which was, at the time I was working for DC. And so I was, it wasn't like I was, they were on a schedule or anything. It was just randomly once every 4 or 5 months, I might do one,
Sure.
And so then I started thinking, you know what? I've got a handle on this character now. I think I can do a graphic novel. So I started thinking about that, but I don't know. I had other IPs in my mind and things that I had developed back in the 90s, like Wraith of God and things like that. And so Kit just kept getting pushed and pushed to the back burner. And when I launched Wraith of God, and then subsequently Wraith of God Blood Hunters, which I'm in fulfillment right now, just started, and had success with those, I thought, man, maybe now I can, drop in a Kit Carter graphic novel and kind of break things up. Because those of you who've read Wraith of God will know that it's a serious, it's a monster hunter, but there's serious themes in it. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to kind of just take a break and do just something kind of silly and fun? And so I finally said, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do the Kit Carter graphic novel that people have been bugging me for 12 years to do. And so that's the long story on how we sort of got to where we're at right now.
Well, again, the imagery is what really sells this. And obviously the imagery is what pushed everyone to push you into making a book. Is this on a scale of Flash Gordon to Barbarella? Where does Kit Carter fall on that?
That's a good question. Probably closer to, well, probably in terms of it being an adventure story, probably closer to Flash Gordon. But in terms of this sort of nonsensical, irreverent humor aspect of it, you're going to probably be a little bit closer to Barbarella. So I can't do something like this. And, especially she's got a monkey as her sidekick, a chimp, Merv the Astro Chimp is her sidekick, who eats pizza and drinks beer. And so you can't do it, totally serious and straight. It just won't work. And so you have to put the humor element into it. And the daily strips that I did, or the newspaper type strips I did initially, were very irreverent and very just Monty Python-esque, right? In order to do a graphic novel and a story that sort of can get the reader engaged and be worthwhile, I had to tone it down a little bit. So it's not, it's still funny, but it's not just crazy funny, because it has to work in a narrative structure, an adventure, dramatic narrative structure but it's going to have all this humor in it. And so I don't know, maybe I'm creating my own genre. It's somewhere in the middle of all those things.
Well, her overall look, in a day when Kickstarter is selling, boob comics out the wazoo,
Mm-hmm.
Kit Carter is sexier than what we're seeing over there, but isn't porny in any way that I've seen. I'm not seeing that suit get ripped or anything. It's just,
No.
it's an adventure suit.
There's people that want me to do that. There's people that want me to do that, but I'm not going to.
Good.
because that just doesn't really fit with my personal character. But I think this is going to be like if this book was being produced uh, by the Marvel or DC back when Marvel and DC was producing good stuff. That's what this is going to be. It would fit, somewhere in that PG-13 range. And I think if you go too sexy and you get the nudity and all that kind of stuff in there,
Yeah.
then the book simply becomes exploitation, right? And you're selling exploitation. I'm selling a story with characters. And so you want to sort of toe that line where, yeah, she's cute. Yeah, she's sexy. There's that sex appeal. But at the same time, you get the feeling this is a legitimate comic project and not just, I'm not trying to demean anybody who's doing other things. I'm just saying that, you push it too far and then it just becomes an exploitation comic. And there's really not much value in it beyond the visual appeal.
No, and there are comics that do that and don't pretend to be anything other than that, and that's fine. That sells them. I look at the inks on this, and it's like Alex Raymond and Gil Elvgren got together to make a sci-fi.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't ink this. I hired one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to figure out a way I can get more books out than just one a year or one every 14 months, which is sort of, when you're writing, penciling, and inking everything, and they're longer books. Like I've done, Wraith of God was 79 pages of story. Wraith of God Blood Hunters is 99 pages of story. It's a 108-page book total with all the, extras, but you're not going to turn that around very quickly. And I understand that when you start getting people supporting your projects, yeah, they love them when they look really, really great, but they also want more than one every year, more than one every year and a half. And you run the risk, I think, of losing your audience because they just have to wait too long for the material.
Yeah.
So I thought,
my comic shop guy calls that the expiration of expectations.
Exactly. You get everybody hyped, everybody's excited for something, and then, and then they're waiting, and then they're waiting, and they're waiting, and so what I thought, okay, if I can get 2 books done a year, how could I do it? Because I don't have the budget to go out and hire people to do the books for me. And I don't think that's what people want anyway. They're supporting my books because I'm doing them. So I hired Matt Ryan, who was my inker on Wonder Woman and Justice League and Ms. Marvel when I was over at Marvel, and CrossGen when I was working on Mystic. Someone we've worked together with for years on multiple projects. And he was available. So I said, you know what? I'm going to write and pencil this. Matt's going to ink it. I got Kelsey Shannon doing the colors, and I can get this book done in about 6 months. And so the goal is to have this thing shipping, or at least going to the printers in April. And then I can get back then to Wraith of God 3 and keep that kind of cycle where Wraith of God, I have to do everything. It's just the way that it's inked and the way the book looks. But on other projects like this, I could have an inker working with me. And then suddenly now I can get 2 books out a year as opposed to just 1. And so that's kind of the goal. And that's why I got Matt to do the interiors. This image right here was the original cover, but I just felt that Kit looked a little too posed. And so that's going to be a pinup in the hardcover edition. And the piece before that was done by Gary Martin. And the hardcover edition, which is signed and numbered, that has my cover on it. It'll have an extra gallery in it of art like this. Piece will be in there, and the piece that you just looked at that was going to be the cover and isn't now, and some other pieces from other artists. And then the paperback or the soft cover edition will be by Chris Stevens, did that cover. And this book is 8.5 by 11. It's the same format size as the Marvel graphic novels of the 80s, like Death of Captain Marvel and was a man God Loves, Man Kills, X-Men graphic novel.
Okay, I know exactly the size you're talking about now.
Yeah, so and it's going to be 64 pages, to say, or give or take. I mean, might be more. I always tend to go a little bit larger than I thought I was going to, but that's going to be the format to kind of replicate that sort of feel. and it just felt kind of, I don't know. I this is a big, colorful book, and I just felt like a little bit larger format might serve it better. So
Yeah. And well, let's just go through the things that are going to be on this campaign because
okay.
we're gonna talk about it anyway. So you got a 3-pack here. Of what is this? This is a sketchbook and
Yeah,
two
there's
versions.
it's the hardcover. That's the one with the tree monster on it. That's the one I drew. The other one is by Chris Stevens. Did the cover for that. That's the soft cover. Those are the same size. They're just one's a hardcover, one's a soft cover. And the hardcover, of course, is signed and numbered, limited edition. So that the edition will be determined based on the orders, the edition size. I mean, and then the Kit Carter is going to be the color sketchbook. I just found I had a lot of sketch material because, like I said, I created this thing 12 years ago. So there's quite a bit of sketch material laying around here. I thought I should put a sketchbook together of all that material. And so that'll be in the sketchbook, which is also 8.5 by 11. So they will all fit really nicely together on your bookshelf.
Yes, you never throw away those sketches because
Oh, I never do.
they find use.
My wife probably wishes I would because I've got the bits of paper with little heads drawn on them all over the place. But
Yeah, I understand. It collects up. I've kind of glossed over the fact that Kit Carter has a subtitle, which is Galactic Ranger.
yes.
Is this an organization or is this just something she does for herself?
No. She belongs to the Galactic, I can't even speak. The Galactic Alliance Freedom Federation, which is GAF. And that's they're like the galaxy's police force, right? And so when trouble arises or, criminal elements or tyrants, whatever, they dispatch agents to, take care of, do this sort of police work, galactic police work. And she's one of those agents, and her partner, of course, is Merv the Astro Chimp, who's not always the most reliable character. And
Is he a partner, an agent partner, or just like
no, he's
Cisco?
he's an agent like her. He's just not at her level. He has the red and orange uniform, while she has the blue. So that's kind of, he's a definite, at least one rank below her, perhaps more.
This
He
is an
cheated on his
interesting.
tests. He cheated on his tests, so he's not even as
He
qualified as he's supposed to be.
he saw the Kobayashi Maru worked for Kirk. Why not?
Yeah,
for him?
exactly. That's exactly that kind of thing. And so there's in this particular story, we saw the lava monster there in the pages, and that's kind of this kind of starts like an Indiana Jones movie where they're finishing up the tail end of one adventure before they go into the next. And this character is introduced in I have a 14-page, or it's actually the 14 newspaper strips episodes that I did previously, and those are published for the first time as a backup story in Wraith of God Blood Hunters, which I'm shipping right now. And this character's in there, so it kind of sets this character up, and then we sort of pay it off at the beginning of the graphic novel, and then she goes into this new adventure where this character called Lord Menace, it lives on this planet that's codenamed Planet Doom. It's full of monsters and all sorts of fun stuff. And he gets this power source because his planet is dying. He gets this power source called the Eye of Amanon, and it sort of recharges his planet, but it gives him more power than he thought he was going to have. And so now he's thinking conquest, and she's sent there to stop him, is basically the idea behind it.
Birdman, I absolutely agree with you. This book does look like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to back it on the show because I took care of that last week.
Well, thank you.
I'm already in on this. I didn't get a shot glass though, and I'm wondering if I should go back in and do that.
I just got those. It's funny thing. They come in. Well, you can order as many as you want, but I never know how many are going to sell. So I usually order 25 and then see how it goes. Well, what I did on this campaign is the very last thing you can back is the Kit Carter Completist, where you get everything in the campaign, including the shot glass. And I've already had 40 some people order that Kit Carter Completist. So I've already run out of, I have to put in a second order for the shot glasses already. So,
That's the way to move them, include them with the complete collection.
yeah, yep. And the one nice thing about this campaign, about my other campaigns with the book being larger, is I had to ship on all the other campaigns. I had to ship my T-shirts separately because they wouldn't fit with the Gemini mailer. This 8.5 by 11 book is the exact same size the size the shirt is when it's folded and in its bag. And so I can ship the T-shirts with the book. And then on this, when you get everything, the completest, I've got a larger box and everything, including the movie poster, which we haven't shown yet, but and the shot glass all fit in this with the T-shirt and the books and ships together. Otherwise, the shot glass would ship separately and the movie poster ships separately. There's just no way around it. But if you get everything together and it all goes in this big box, that's the way that I can get everything to you guys at exactly the same time. So
yeah, I'm shipping stuff right now where the guy's got a 24 by 36 poster. And I'm like,
yeah.
there's normally if there's like multiple things, I have large poly bags, so I'll put the Gemini and a tube and whatever I have to down there, and I can seal it in one package. You can't put a 24-inch tube in anything. It's its own thing. So
well, right. And I've done on this, I'm doing it like an insert style movie poster, which is 14 by 36 inches. So it's not particularly wide. I mean, it's, you got a 14-inch, well, probably be a 16-inch tube. But it's still too big to put in with I mean, I have to put it in a pretty large box, and it just makes more sense to, if someone orders a book and a poster, the poster will ship separately than the book.
sure. It just makes sense that way.
Yeah. I mean,
Otherwise you're making really weird packages and it's
yeah.
just
And it's exactly. And I think that's why everybody does like mini prints. And I've done that myself because they all fit in the thing together. Right. And you don't have to get two, and you don't have to charge more for shipping because you're shipping one item instead of two. But when you do something large format like this, like the movie poster or a specialty item, like a shot glass that just won't fit, and it has to have its own protection, and everything, and its own box. There's just no getting around it. That it's a separate ship item, but I still include those things because I think they're cool things and they're things I've wanted to do, especially the movie poster. I've wanted to do a Kit Carter movie poster forever, and I just have never had enough reason to do it. And so I made myself do it for this campaign, so I'd have a reason to actually do it because I want to hang one on my wall. So
sure. and you're going to roll it because that's the other thing about posters is nobody wants to fold them to mail them out.
No, I don't. And the funny thing is, in those insert posters, they were a trifold poster. If you get them, when they shipped to the theaters, that's how they came, and so they were folded. But I'm not gonna fold anybody's poster. It's like I'm rolling it, so it's in perfect condition when they get it, and then what they do with it is that's their business beyond that. But I want to make sure I get everything to people in perfect shape because I'm a collector myself, and I know that even just a little ding here and there drives me nuts. So I try to make sure everybody gets their stuff in immaculate condition. And then if they want to wreck it, that's their business.
Yes. Talking about mailing posters. I had a client had posters with his campaign, and he's like, they're this big by this big. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I have tubes that fit that.
Mm-hmm.
What he didn't know, and what I didn't know until they got here and it was time to pack them, was yes, they were that dimension. And they were printed on board.
So you couldn't roll them.
You couldn't roll them.
Holy crap. That must cost a fortune.
They weren't like an inch thick board. They were just, really stiff paper.
Yeah.
Heavyweight paper. And he selected that because he wanted to have a really good print.
Right.
But you couldn't roll them. It was not going to work. We had to mail those out flat. And I think they were like 11 by 17 or a little bigger.
Yeah.
Something flat, it's expensive.
Yeah, you end up paying as much for shipping as the poster cost, and it's like that's no good. But I found through trial and error that you can find some nice heavy paper that'll still roll, and so you can kill two birds with one stone. You can get that high quality print paper, but it'll still roll. and that's what that's these movie posters will be on. They're not going to be that thin poster stock, that you used to get when we were kids, and you'd get Farrah Fawcett poster or whatever to hang on your wall. It's a heavy, thick paper, but it'll still roll. So
And we've got T-shirts. T-shirts
I
here.
do. Two
Black
colors,
and
in
teal.
fact. Everybody's always
Okay.
going to have black T-shirts, but I wanted another color on there, and teal looked the best out of the options I had. And so these are a 50-50 blend. They don't shrink, and these are expensive shirts. This is a high quality printer that I'm using, and I'm actually wearing right now one of my shirts that they did, the Garbage Man shirt, and you know, th- they don't you don't see the color fading or anything on after several washes. I don't know how long they do last, but they last. These are not cheap shirts, is the point I'm trying to make, that they're good quality,
Right.
and the print jobs are really exceptional.
And folks who are thinking about putting shirts on their campaign, notice that what Aaron did here was he didn't just put the image of the character on there, he put the logo. I don't know how many shirts I've seen where they're like, "Oh, I've got a great comic book campaign. I'm putting my character on the shirt." And I'm like, nobody knows who that is, and no one's going
Yeah,
to stop and ask you. If
that's exactly right. And in fact, I'd have to go back and look. I can't even remember now. When I did originally Wraith of God, I had the Wraith of God shirt, which had the logo on it. But then I had the Dale Keown Werewolf shirt, and I don't think I put the logo on the shirt because I don't think it was really apropos. It was really just kind of a heavy metal werewolf shirt that you could wear to a rock concert, you could wear to a comic book convention. Um, and Dale's original design was supposed to be for a pinup in the book, and everybody's like, "No, you got to make that a cover." But it wasn't designed to be a cover, so there's no place to put the logo, right? So I did a virgin cover with it where it just has the image and no logo. And I did this. I think I did the same thing with the shirt. Although this company that makes these shirts, they'll put your logo on your tag on your shirt. So it says,
Oh,
I think it said Wraith of God on the logo shirt, and then Empire Comics. This one will say Kit Carter on the tag and Empire Comics. So it's pretty cool.
but with the logo, it gives people who pass you something to Google.
Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah,
Carter, what's that?
exactly. It's advertising for your product.
Exactly. Um, which is what you want everything that you put out to do, including this gorgeous poster you were talking about.
Yeah, there's a larger, if you scroll down to the bigger images on the left-hand side, there is that's the t-shirt design there, and that's the
Yeah.
sketchbook. There's a t-shirt design. That's the sketchbook. And now this is a color rough. It's not the finished painting, but it's the layout and color rough. And you'll see this is how it'll look, but the painting will be finished. It won't be this kind of rough watercolor thing here that I just did as a color study.
Right.
So I know what I'm going to. It's basically my roadmap before I actually start painting. So I know what I'm doing when I go in.
So it's going to look
color-wise.
more like an old movie poster, not
Right.
a poster designed to look like a movie poster.
Right. That's exactly right. We'll even
Okay.
have,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have to jump back in. Once I keep thinking I'm out, and they keep dragging me back in. And I don't even know where I'm going to put it on the wall, but I will find a place.
I don't have any
Um,
place either, but it's going up. I can guarantee you that. I did a Jaws. My son, he's a movie poster collector and a little bit of a comic collector too. And he was bugging me for years to make a Jaws movie poster, and I finally did it and just printed up. I made 11 by 17 prints out of it, but I did a few that were 24 by 36, and that made it up on my wall in my movie room. So Kit Carter will too. So
I'll tell you the thing that's taken me out of the game here is I'm looking at 14 by 36 frames.
they're cheaper than framing a movie poster, a full size movie poster.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah, they
that's all I can say to that, is that
are.
that's one of the reasons I like the 14 by 36 format. In fact, I will buy those. I've got a Raiders that's insert size. I got a Star Trek one that's insert size, because they don't take up as much wall space, and they're cheaper to frame than, full size movie posters, which I have plenty of those too.
Yeah, I'll find a cheaper one. There's got to be something cheaper than $40 for a frame here. 'Cause I'm used to spend like $8 for a frame, Aaron.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, if you go get them at frame shops, it's more than $40, man. I tell you, it's expensive as heck. But
Yeah.
I've the last couple times I've had guest artists, well, actually every time I've had a guest artist do a cover for me, I've bought the original from them. And those are like, that I've got to get that framed.
Yeah.
And I got a Dave Finch clayface painting back there that I had to get framed and matted. And I got a Bisley original hanging over here that was on the Wraith of God Blood Hunters campaign for one of the covers. And that's a huge thing. It's like, I think it's, I don't know, 16 by 20 or something. I mean, it's a really big painting. And I had to get that framed and matted. And I got Dale Keown's werewolf up there on my wall from the first one. And it was like, God, it was painful getting those things. So expensive getting those things framed, but I had to.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of sketches in frames, which I frame myself, but I do have some things that I had to frame professionally because I knew what I didn't know, and I took it to a small town old man shop. He was retired; that was his thing. So I've got like my Green Lantern number 40 is framed and matted.
Oh, do you? Look at you.
I've got the first appearance of Batgirl and the first appearance of Batgirl in a side-by-side dual matte frame that I had him cut special.
So you have the Detective Comics where Batgirl first appears. Huh? What number is that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I've got the the $1 million debut of Batgirl, where it's Barbara Gordon, but I've also got the Golden Age issue of Batman where Betty Kane swings in the little red skirt to save the day. So I've got both the Batgirls, and then I've got I've got two other frames. I got the first appearance of the Reverse Flash in the Flash comics, which I had that one. And then for a long time, I didn't have to frame anything. But then here in Arkansas, I went to a little bookstore out in the middle of nowhere. And I found probably the oldest comic book I've ever seen.
Really?
At a price that I could afford. It was $200 and some odd to get this book. So they knew they had something.
But they didn't know exactly what, right?
No. Well, maybe they did. It was a 1907. Yes, I know that predates Superman by a good 30 years.
Yeah. What was it?
The Katzenjammer Kids.
No kidding.
Yes. And it was like, it was fragile. And it was like the pages were cotton. And there was like a chunk taken out of the front cover. But I'm like, I'm saving this and I'm getting it framed and protected. And it's behind museum glass.
Wow.
It's waiting to go up on the wall somewhere. But I'm like, when people ask me, comic books, I'm like, yeah, so you want to look about 1935, 1936. That's when, the industry made them. Apparently not.
Well, I mean, there's what they call platinum age books that are all pre 1938. And, I think the Yellow Kid dates back to right around turn of the century. I think even as late as 1897, maybe if right around there. And so there are a few, and they used to do promotional books like Buster Brown shoes. They had Buster Brown comic books that were like giveaways or whatever, and those predated all that the Golden Age books as well. So yeah, there's some of that stuff floating around out there. It's pretty amazing when you find one, especially like that.
I'd never seen one before. It was,
I was just going to say, Steve Lieber, who is out here in Portland. We were in a studio together back in the 90s, and he went to he went to the Oregon coast, and there's a lot of antique stores and that kind of stuff out there, very touristy. He comes back with this painting, and it was a James Bama painting, and James Bama, of course, famously did all the Doc Savage paperback covers that all of us remember so well. He went on to be a Western fine arts painter, but he had a James Bama painting. It wasn't Doc Savage, but it was still incredible. It looked like it was for a book cover that had never, it was like 90% done or something. It was like some of the background wasn't finished or something, but the figures were, and it would look like it was a painting that never got used for anything. What the heck is it doing at a antique shop on the coast in Oregon? And he got it for a song. I can't remember what he paid for it, but I was so furious. I was like, oh my gosh, give it to me, because I'm a big Bama fan. And but yeah, it's funny how sometimes that stuff just turns up.
I'd still love to get my hands on a Hector Garrido painting. Hector Garrido used to do the covers for the Destroyer series back in its first run.
Yes. Bama did some of those too. Not the
did he?
Destroyer,
I'm looking
excuse me. The who was the guy that the Avenger? That's who I was thinking of. Not the Destroyer, the Avenger. He had that pale skin, and he looked like he was like a secret agent or something.
He kind of looked like this.
Mm-hmm. Kind of looked exactly like that.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what when you said Destroyer, that's what I was thinking of. But I know who the Destroyer is. So
yeah, I got to write some of the Destroyer novels for Mr. Murphy, and ever since then I'm like, yeah, I want a collector's item thing to add to that collection. That was a lot of fun.
Well, RJ, you seem like you're as bad as I am when it comes to collecting.
Oh, okay. So I want to see this Katzenjammer. Aaron, keep talking. It's right behind me. I'll just grab it and bring it on the stream.
I just picked up actually for those of you in the audience that are collectors, I just picked up Tales of Suspense number 60, which I believe is the second appearance of Hawkeye. 9.2 slabbed. So I paid a little bit of money for it, but I actually got it on a really good price and quite satisfied. But I do have a problem. I collect movie posters, comic books, occasionally action figures, although I've run out of room. So I really, really stay away from action figures at this point because I have no place to display them. But I've got some old model kits, artwork hanging on the wall. So movie posters, movie cameras. Yeah, I got a problem. All right, what do you got
store here in Eureka Springs that you need to come visit, Aaron. The first Drunk 3PO came and visited for his campaign, and we walked to Eureka Springs. We went into the store called TE Rex. They sell T-shirts as a sideline item, but the first thing you see when you walk in is loose and mint on card Superpowers figures, Star Wars figures, Secret Wars figures, and just shelves of them. Just like,
oh my gosh.
It's glorious. So this is still in the cellophane because I haven't been able to put it on the wall yet. But let me see if I can get a non-glare thing here.
Holy crap, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a big book. I mean, now it's smaller than the frame, but I'm gonna give myself full screen here because it doesn't.
Go ahead, please do.
And I'm gonna take. Let's see. So. Trying to get
so it's the top right corner there that has that's missing the chip out of it there.
Actually, it's right down here that's missing.
Oh, okay, I see. I see.
Big chip.
Oh yeah. I don't know though. That's still. I'd pay $200 for that, even with the chip in it.
Yeah, all the pages are there. So
that's incredible.
So I paid $200 for the book, and then I probably paid another $200 for the framing job.
So that's got to be like what? It's just full of like newspaper strips in it, is what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. It was like the Sunday strips on every single page. Single-sided pages, by the way.
Interesting. Wow.
It wasn't even double-sided print.
You said that's 1907 or 1917?
I think it's 1917.
Okay.
I could do a quick Google on that. Cruise of the Katzenjammer Kids. Anybody else could too. And 1907.
1907. Wow, that's
amazing. Scarce, it's called. So
yeah, I mean, I've got I collect Line Decker Saturday Evening Post covers, and I've got some of them going back to like 1917. They're in pretty nice shape, but man, to find a comic like that, that's incredible.
Well, from what I hear, the paper they printed on was more cotton based, so it's not as brittle as later prints of things stuff. Be like like the pulp stuff when they were literally just getting cheap paper out to put stuff.
Well, that was the crappiest paper you could get was those pulps. I'm surprised any of them survived.
Yeah. So let me scroll down here, see what else we got. We got the So, by the way, folks, if you're big like me, don't jump on the first T-shirt you see. You might want this plus size T-shirt down here.
That's right. They go all the way up to 4X. So we've got from small to 4X. I think we got every size pretty well covered.
So always read every tier before you jump on one.
Yeah.
This is you're doing a lot of mixing and matching for the rest of it. You got the soft cover and the sketchbook here in this one.
Right. And you've got the hardcover solo, then you have the hardcover with the sketchbook. Tried to give everybody, and every time you buy a combo like this, you're saving a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Rather than buying them separately or buying, one and then adding on the same thing. If you can get it in a perk, you're going to get a better deal on it rather than just like adding it on buffet style at the end. Some things you have to add on because I obviously couldn't do a perk for absolutely every scenario, but for the ones I think are most obvious that people would be interested in, there's perks for those, and those are the best deals to get those.
I know one person, Karen Nicole. In fact, you should reach out to her to see about a cosplay cover for
Karen Nicole.
Cara, Cara, Nicole.
Is she on Twitter or someplace?
Oh yes, she's on Twitter. She's known as AZ Power Girl because that's her cosplay thing that she does. She's Alfred Trujillo's wife, who does a lot of the work for Zenoscope and some of his own stuff.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she would make an amazing Kit Carter.
Okay.
And what she does on her campaigns for her cosplay books and the comic books that they produce is she sells an empty sack. It's a $10, nothing but the shipping, and then you just go to the add-ons page and you just throw stuff in it.
Oh, really?
So it's an a la carte package. Like there's nothing here but the shipping. $10 shipping, then go in there and you just start throwing stuff in. It's like, okay, we're adding $1 shipping on for this, we're adding $2 shipping on for that. But you just fill. It's like the old library sales where it's like, $2 for a paper sack, fill it with books.
That's pretty cool.
I thought it was pretty clever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now here's the completest kit too.
Yeah, the completest. The one thing you get in this is you get basically everything that's in the campaign, but you also get a Kit Carter headshot sketch.
Yeah.
So that's like an original drawing that I would do that goes along with this.
So do you get called for commissions a lot?
Yes. But what I found is that I don't, as much as I like to do them, I don't really have a ton of time. So I squeeze a few in here and there when I can. But when you're doing everything yourself in these campaigns, from the creative part to the production part of it, to the shipping part of it, to the advertising and promotion part of it, it's like I have so little time to do commissions anymore. I feel like I'm working around the clock, 7 days a week. But I had a bit of a breather between waiting for the Wraith of God, Blood Hunters books to come back from the printer. And obviously before I won't start working on Kit Carter full time until the campaign goes to in demand. So I have a little bit of time that I can squeeze in a few pieces, which I'm trying to do right now while I'm shipping books out.
Well, and the reason I ask is I've got, other friends who make comics, and they're always asking me, hey, ask this guy, hey, ask that guy what he charges to do a full body sketch of a character, because they want to include pinups in their books. So if somebody wanted a full body sketch of a character, what would you tell them a rate would be if you were available for such things? Well, or is that a question I shouldn't ask? I mean,
well, no, it's difficult to answer because it depends on, are we talking about a sketch? Are we talking about a finished piece? I mean, if you're talking about someone that, like, if people come to me and say, because I've had people contact me to do covers and for them, and, sometimes they can afford it, sometimes they can't. So I've done a few covers for people on their independent books. If someone wanted something for the inside of their book, it would depend on the size they were looking for. Is there you just want a single character shot? Did you want some background in there and all that stuff? But so I mean, it would range anywhere from, you know, maybe $200 up to $1,000. Just depends on the size and
Yeah.
the content of the
If we
piece
were,
and the level
I'm
of
sure he's
finish.
talking like a full page black and white inked.
Um,
Oh,
Well, I mean, normally what I would do is charge people basically what my, you know, if we're just talking about black and white finished piece, if I did say a pinup for Marvel or DC, right, I just charge people whatever my rate is and has been for the last 20 years because you never get
hey,
raises in comics. But my cover rate for pencils, inks, and colors is $725. My rate for an interior page that, you know, pinup or whatever that's black and white would be probably 4.25, something like that.
don't pin
Somewhere
him
in that
down to this,
neighborhood.
Brent, if you're listening.
Yeah, so it just depends. But again, I'm doing a 11 by 17 commission for a guy that what I call is a cover quality commission, black and white, that I'm charging $1,000 for. So it just depends on, you know, what someone would want.
You
and how
realize this is
involved it
why
ends up
the
being.
writers at conventions are so jealous of you guys, because we're sitting here at our tables like, I'll write a paragraph about your character for $20. Really?
Well, that we do have the advantage at conventions because people usually go to conventions to buy comics and art, and we can supply at least the art and sometimes the comics as well.
I used to go to comic conventions when there was such a thing. I know there are conventions. I don't call them that anymore because they're celebrity conventions.
Yeah, they're pop culture cons. They're
Pop
not
culture
comic
conventions.
book shows.
I went to one in Little Rock, and I went because there was actually a comic book artist there, and I won't say his name because I don't want this to sound disparaging or anything, because I wanted his signature. And I went and I brought the one book that he had done that was my favorite book from 1980s, and I was like, he may charge. He charged $40 for a signature. Like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing it. I made the trip, but I'm the old man yelling at clouds now, Aaron. But I
You're not
remember
the only
going to
one.
Chicago Comic-Con, 1988, 1989, and I still have my hardcover greatest Batman adventures ever told, greatest Joker stories ever told.
Yeah.
And that thing reads like a funeral book. Because you open it up and it's signed by Dick Giordano, Denny O'Neil, Jim Aparo, Frank Robbins, Sheldon Moldoff. All the greats were there, and you just walked up to them and said hi, and nobody stopped you, and there were no lines. You just walked up to people and talked about comics.
Shelley Moldoff was a good guy. I used to hang out with him back when I was young, just new into the industry, and he was obviously making the rounds with his wife, and
Was there.
also, who's the Green Lantern guy? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Why is it escaping me?
That's who I thought was the Green Lantern guy, was Sheldon Moldoff.
No, Shelley Moldoff is a Hawkman guy.
Okay, because when I saw him at that Chicago Con, he had his giant not Hal Jordan, Alan Scott painting behind him hanging on the wall, and he wasn't in the con area. He was like in this little room off to the side. I ducked out of the hallway to put my bag down. I'm like, oh, somebody's in here, sitting at a table. And I saw the big painting and I saw his name. I'm like, I know that name, and I don't know why he's tucked in a corner like this. And DC was just kicking off JSA again as a miniseries. And while he's signing my books, I'm like, you're still drawing. You're still here with us.
Yeah.
Why isn't DC having you do the JSA series? And his wife leaned in and says, would you go ask DC that for us, please? And so I did, because I was like 19 and I didn't care.
Yeah. He would, his wife would always ask me,
Martin O'Dell.
what's wrong with his art? Why won't they hire him? I'm like, I don't do the hiring. I don't know. But I went to breakfast with him a couple of times. I'm looking up the
Martin Odell.
Martin Odell. That's it. Yes, thank you,
Thank
Martin
you.
Odell. He was the other one that he and Shelley Moldoff and their wives were always at the shows, and so I got to know them a little bit and spent some time with them, which was really kind of cool. Um, especially when you talk to people like that, like worked in the golden age, it's amazing to hear their stories and their experiences and how different it was back then than it is now.
I'm trying to think who else I saw. Oh, Dick Sprang. Dick Sprang was there.
Mm. I met
And of
Jerry
course,
Robinson too.
ooh, that would
Once.
have been great.
Yeah. At a show when I was very early in my career. But those guys were all sort of making the rounds back then, and getting,
Well,
subsidizing
they
their
loved
income by
comics.
going to these shows.
Yeah, they loved comics.
Yeah.
And 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 of all the things that the comic book industry is missing right now, because there's no shortage of shows that bitch about the state of comics today. And it's this, it's that. What it is it's an industry that's missing people working in it who actually love the industry.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Used to when I broke in, and I broke in, in sort of the tail end of all the great stuff that was going on in the 80s and prior to that. And you had guys that the editors knew what they were doing. They loved comics. There were people with comic book experience. A lot of them were creators that, were tired of the grind and just became editorial. Guys like Carl Potts and Bob Budiansky and
But they stayed in the industry because they loved it.
yeah, and Mark Grunwald. Those guys loved comics, and they knew what they were doing. And it's just you've got people running Marvel and DC right now that don't know anything about comics. They don't care anything about the history of comics, and they're there for other reasons. And it's unfortunately it's really all but destroyed the industry at this point. And that's why, so many of us have had to do what we're doing and say, you know what, we're going to forge our own path. And plus you get to a point, and I think I remember I read this post years ago before it even happened to me, but John Byrne saying, hey, if they'll do it to Jack Kirby and they'll do it to me, they'll do it to anybody, meaning basically kick you to the curb at some point. And that's sort of, I got to that point where I was like, I'm about ready to get kicked to the curb. And all I've been doing my entire life is working on somebody else's characters, for a page rate.
Yeah.
And I thought if
Well,
I'm going to get my stuff out there, now I better do it now or it's never going to happen. So
I still go to the comic shop, but I don't sit around and talk about the latest issues with people and get into the whole Wolverine versus
yeah,
Hulk who would win kind of things.
yeah.
But while everyone's at the news stack, I'm
Oh, I
digging
got
into.
that beautiful cover by Neil Adams. Jeez.
I'm
Yeah,
hitting
look
all
at
those
that.
back issue bins because I'm like,
Beowulf.
nobody's the prices on a lot of these back issues are going down.
Well, everything exploded, the collector's market, as I'm sure you were aware during COVID, because everybody had this kind of extra money and no place to go to spend it. And now all that stuff is bottoming out and dropping back down. And there's deals to be had right now in the collector's market, that's for sure.
I love this Green Lantern one here because
God,
everyone
Gil
thinks
Kane.
John Stewart is the second Green Lantern
Mm.
or the third Green Lantern. Everyone forgets about Charlie. Charlie became a Green Lantern in this issue. So he's actually the second Green Lantern. I can't remember his name now, his last name, but
That big pink guy?
no. That's the enemy. That's the bad guy.
Okay. Okay. I was like,
Charlie was the TV actor who played Green Lantern on the television show. In
and
the
he
DC
actually
universe.
became I didn't know that. He became a Green Lantern, huh?
He actually became a Green Lantern, and then I lucked into this one recently.
Oh, yeah, I have entire run of those. I got those when I was a kid. That somebody told me, some comic shop owner when I was a kid said, you better check out this Wrightson guy. He's going to be the next big thing. And I had never even heard of him. So I after the fact went and found all the Swamp Things because this was probably 75. And so I went back and he just had stacks of those and all like in near mint condition. So I got doubles of everything. I still have one of each, but I didn't keep all because I kept buying multiple copies of them, but they're great. Oh, look at that. World's
I love getting
Finest
these old
Adventure.
Silver Age stuff. Yeah, these are great. My Swamp Thing brush with the next big thing. I'm embarrassed to say there is a letter printed in a Swamp Thing issue somewhere in the mid 80s where I'm writing in to say, man, I really don't like the new direction this thing's going. The art's changed. You're bringing in the Justice League now. And I'm like, I don't like the Justice League and Swamp Thing. I like it to be just Swamp Thing. I like it to be horror. I like, what you were doing before. I'm going to tell you right now, this Alan Moore guy stinks. And you need to.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when I looked at that, because I remember it got really hot really quick, and it was like, and I hadn't read it because I read the rights and stuff, obviously, in Len Wein, and then when Redondo took over, he did a really nice job in that book as well. But then that series got canceled, right? And then they kind of brought it back with Alan Moore, and I was just like, whatever. I was kind of over it, but people were like, "Oh, you got to check this out. It's great." And I remember,
well, Marty Pasco wrote the first 23 issues, 22 issues.
Yeah, and I was flipping through that first Alan Moore issue, and I was like, it was so verbose. It was like, this looks like an effort to read this, and so I never picked it up and never read it. So I never have read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I've read Watchmen and some of his other stuff, but I never read his Swamp Thing.
It grew on me, and I realized, can I get that letter back? No, they're going to go ahead and publish that one, aren't they? And they did, to my everlasting chagrin. Yeah. Anyway, we've passed the top of the hour, but I have not done the one thing that always embarrasses me on the show, and that is go to the top of an Indiegogo page and reload it, because I'd love to know that
anybody's.
Yes,
we've enticed anyone to come in and. Nope.
Look at that. I did you absolutely nothing. Nothing. You wasted your time.
But we had a great conversation though, and that's
we did. We did. I love this book. I'm glad I'm backing it. I'm going to have to go back and get the poster now. And I recommend that everybody else give this a shot too.
I'm going to go back and order some more shot glasses too, since I'm already behind in my shot glasses.
We do like to drink on these shows. So,
well, we're going to do, Shelley and I are going to do, I've got the Garbage Man one and the Wraith of God one. And now that's the Wraith of God shot glass. And then the Kit Carter one. And we're going to end up doing a set through all the different campaigns as we go forward. We're going to have a different shot glass each time until we have a set of 6. And then we will, so when that 6th one comes out, we'll have a little, like a designer holder that you can put all your shot glasses in, a little, so just kind of
a winery down the street from me has those, and they're really nice. They'll bring out a train of wine with 6 different types, and you just sip in them.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good stuff. This is, of course, a complete story in this book, right? This is
I don't leave anybody hanging. Even with the Wraith of God stuff, even though it's an ongoing, every adventure is complete. And because I just don't, if you're doing a monthly book, that's fine. You can cliffhang, but if you're not, like we talked about earlier, you don't want to leave somebody hanging for 12 months. I just don't think that's a good way to approach it. And so all the stories are complete for that particular adventure, but there's always going to be stuff that allows it to carry on to the next one.
Is there more Kit Carter in the works?
We'll see. We'll see how this does. This opened up. This was the biggest first 24 hours I've had of any campaign, but we'll see where it ends up, because that's what really matters, is what your final numbers are when you close it down.
And it still has plenty of time.
Yeah, we're only 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks into it. So
yeah, it's always those last couple of days where it skyrockets up when people are like, okay, better get my money in now.
Yep, exactly. So it looks like it's trending pretty good right now. So we'll just keep pushing it and see where it ends up. But I never say never, right? So it's if everybody wants more Kit Carter, we'll give them more Kit Carter.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Can't wait to get this one in my hands first, and then we'll go from there. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I do appreciate it.
RJ, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Everybody in the chat, of course. We don't have a show without you guys being here to watch it. We're just a podcast falling in the woods. So we're glad that you're here. And as of course, every time I say while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.